Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to day one of my 12 days of Christmas series. We're going to jump right in, and we are working with a 24-ounce slightly tapered tumbler from the Tumbler supply store. I prepped it, sanded it, and then I spray painted it with a glossy hunter green. I don't prefer glossy spray paint, but it's the only one that I had in the right color, so we made it work. I let that dry completely, and then I gave it a very thin coat of epoxy, and then we're going to go in with this glitter mix that I made. It's a custom mix. I don't know what happened to the footage of me mixing it, but I will tell you it's all diamonds and dust glitter, and the color that I used is Frogger, Forest Queen, What the Elf, Tidal Wave, and Growth. And I didn't really have an exact measurement as you've seen me do before. I just kind of kept mixing until it became this deep dark green that I wanted to achieve. So after that, I rolled it up in some printer paper to really smooth out. It's not really chunky, but it's not fine either. But I have found that no matter what size glitter I use, I do this and it really helps cut down on any sharp edges on the glitter after I epoxy it. So I let that dry, and then we gave it a really good coat of epoxy. I also don't know what happened to this next footage, but let me tell you real quick what I did was after that coat of epoxy was cured and dry, I applied my SVG in removable vinyl and then gave it a coat of Rust-Oleum's flat white spray paint, and I let that dry. And then here I am mixing up a concoction. It's not glitter. So what I used was all from Diamonds and Dust were Luster Dust in the color Pure, and then Purple Opal Fine Flakes, also from Diamonds and Dust, and then from AB Designs Co. I used this chameleon powder in the color Glazed, and I just added a little bit to a cup and mixed it all up just like a glitter mix, but we're working with powders instead. And we're going to go in and do kind of like a tack it method. So after I'm mixing that up here, then I took my foil glue from Artistic Painting Studio. I applied that all over the cup with the stencil with the removable vinyl still on it, and then I heated it just slightly with my heat gun, and then I let it dry naturally on the side by itself because I didn't want to heat it too much with the heat gun because I didn't want to kind of make that, even though it's removable vinyl, I didn't want to heat it and make it harder to peel up in the end. So my foil glue is a little bit thick. I think I'm too far down at the very bottom, so I stirred it up with a popsicle stick, but then I also dipped my paintbrush in just a tiny bit of water to kind of help spread it. It is a thicker glue anyways, but the water just kind of helps it spread really smoothly on the cup. So I completely coated the whole entire cup with this glue water mixture. After the glue was dry, which remember when the glue is dry, it's actually tacky. But I went in and I just poured on just a little bit of our powder mixture and rubbed it in. I used a gloved hand, and be warned, this powder stuff goes everywhere. The luster dust was all over the air, but it's so worth it because it's beautiful. So I just rubbed it in, poured it on, rubbed it in, and you'll be able to tell, like you can see the difference here where it is, but also you'll be able to know where the powder is on your cup because it won't feel sticky anymore. I was getting my finger caught on the sticky part of where the glue was, but I just continued to, in slow batches, slow little areas, just poured on a little bit of the powder dust mixture and rubbed it in. And as you can see, I didn't mix up a ton of the luster dust powder mixture because a little bit goes a long way. So I didn't want to waste it because it's little jars. So I just mixed up a little bit and I still had some left over. After that, I just took my hand and rubbed all over again, just to make sure that I covered every single area and there was no sticky spots left. And then I'm going to go in with my weeding pen and my tweezers and peel up the removable vinyl decal. very carefully because we do not want to scratch any of this, especially it's not glitter. So I know you can see when you scratch the glitter, but this, because it's not glitter, it will show every imperfection. So after that was all peeled up, I gave it a coat of epoxy, and then we're going to go in and add the offset to the entire SVG. I went with a white offset because I was really going for a white monochromatic look because I really wanted the dark green peekaboo to stand out on its own, and really, because it's such a contrast, I really wanted it to kind of blend and then be like this pop of green. So I thought that I was going to be this magical magician and be able to apply this whole offset all in one swoop, and it didn't go so well. So I held my breath, applied it, and for the most part, I got a lot of it straight, but a lot of the letters on the bottom and the little swooshy line on the bottom didn't line up so well. So I peeled those off and recut them and tried again, and then I placed each letter individually, as you can see here. After that, I felt like the back just needed something more. It's a beautiful white opal-y color from the luster dust mixture, but it was just so plain. So I cut out some white spruce trees to match the theme of this tumbler, and I applied a small one right on the right side of the peekaboo and then one on the left side of the peekaboo, and then we're going to add another one, but I first applied another one right in the middle, but you could see where it overlapped too much and it was bothering me. So I just peeled that off, left the ones on the side, and then I gave it a coat of epoxy, and while it was curing and spinning, I sprinkled on just a little pinch or two of Diamonds and Dust waterfall glitter. It's a chunky kind of opal-y color, and I just kind of wanted it to give the illusion of maybe some snowflakes. So I cleaned up the rim, gave it that coat of epoxy, and then after that, we're going to add in the bigger tree in the center of those two white trees. Okay, it's time to mix some glitter again because we have one last final step for this tumbler. I am going in all with Diamonds and Dust. I used Angel Wings, which, side note, this is by far my favorite white glitter from Trina. And then Frosting and Abominable. Mixed it up, and then we're taking some puffy paint. We're doing puffy paint drips on this, and it's super simple. Now, I went heavy-handed because I'm going to be doing 2 layers of this drip. I really wanted it to look like snow caps on like the side of buildings type of look. So I went in kind of heavy, and with puffy paint, make sure you note that it does not dry this thick. If you thicken up epoxy, you will get a thick drip. With puffy paints, they dry much flatter. So I went in a little heavy-handed, and what I do for my drips to make sure that there's different levels of drip when I want it drippy like that, I just try to smoothly run it around the rim of my tumbler, and then sometimes I'll stop and squeeze extra in one spot, and that'll give it a longer drip than some of the other areas. And then after I've went all the way around, I just hit it on my table, and that helps the drip come down. And as you can see here, it dripped onto the peekaboo, and I didn't want that, so I just took a baby wipe and kind of pushed it back up into itself and uncovered what it was covering up. And then we take that glitter mixture and sprinkle it all over that puffy paint drip. Make sure you turn the cup facing down so that the glitter can get on the bottom portion of that drip too. I really wanted it, you know, like when you go out after it snowed and the sun is shining and you get that like sparkly, glittery look in the snow. That's the look I was going for with this. So I'm picking off a little extra big shard of glitter in the mixture. And then I set that aside and let it dry overnight, because you don't want to work with the puffy paint too early, because even though it may feel dry, some of the spots that are a little bit thicker inside that puffy paint could still be wet. So I just set it aside, let it dry overnight, and then I took a paintbrush, got all that extra glitter off from the cup around the puffy paint drip, and then I'm going in with a second layer of drip. Not so heavy-handed this time. I didn't want it to go past the original drip or cover it up. I just wanted like a second layer. So I did the same thing, went around, hit it on my hand this time, and then covered it in that same glitter, and then set it aside again for the night to dry. After that second layer of puffy paint drip was dry, I gave it a coat of epoxy, and then we're going to go in and clean up the rim with my X-Acto knife. And then I am going to take my sanding block, it's 60 grit, I believe, yes, 60 grit, and sand really well along that top rim as well. It's still trying to leave that little tiny bit of stainless on that top rim for good coverage with the last coat of epoxy. And then because the puffy paint is thicker and had some glitter on it, there was a few little sharp edges, so I just really lightly, it may not look like I'm doing it very lightly with this sanding block, but I am just sanding very lightly if there was any sharp edges on that drip or anywhere on the tumbler bottom rim, and then gave it 2 final coats of epoxy, and this beauty was all done. I really achieved what I was looking for. I really wanted that snow glistening with the white tone-on-tone monochromatic, where that peekaboo in the dark green just pops. So I hope that you love this as much as I loved working on it. I'm so excited for you to come back tomorrow for day 2 of my 12 Days of Christmas series. And as usual, I will leave all of the information where to find me and the products I use down in the description box. And I will see you tomorrow.